We're now coming on to our next keynote. Someone who's been through the exit process and has, as I mentioned before, has run $100 million business and now heads up Steven Bartlett's private office. So please welcome Amy Golding for our next keynote.
Amy, hello. Oh, we're doing that. We're doing lots of hugs. Oh, wasn't that lovely? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for asking. And thanks particularly for joining here. We want to talk a number of different aspects, including around team building, about being you're a fairly sort of rare character, if I may say, of an entrepreneur who's created a business originally, which we'll talk about. You then led a business, that £100 million, I think, turnover business at its peak, the exit of that, and now working with and for Steven Bartlett. Right, so let's, you founded a recruitment company pretty much straight after uni or sometime after uni?
I actually started life as an advisor, so I was in consulting. Strategy and M&A for a little while. Right,
this is post Cambridge.
Post Cambridge. Yeah. Whenever anyone says post, I always expect them to say COVID. Post Cambridge. Did that for a little while, and then decided that wasn't for me. Too many rules, and went to be a business advisor for James Caan, who was.
So you've got previous with these
dragon taming skills.
Dragon taming? Let it be noted for the record, ladies and gentlemen, that was dragon taming. And then this business, your recruitment business that you started, it grew to of the order of 70 million turnover, 130 staff.
Yeah, so it was sort of a incubator, an investment firm that invested just in recruitment startups. And we got to about 20 million revenue in year 2.
Right. It's extraordinary. And sorry, was that how was that funded?
By James and myself.
I see. Right.
I was obviously the lesser part of that, being 26 or whatever it was.
But you were doing the doing. You were running it. Yeah.
Yeah. Grew that to about 20 million in 2 years. And then decided I wanted to go and run one myself.
Right, and Opus came calling, or you sought out Opus?
Opus came calling.
Right.
And I've got I'm not from Bristol, but I have a real affinity to Bristol because that business was headquartered here. And for any of you, there's a lot of business owners in the room. I'm sure you've had phone call after phone call after phone call from Opus. Talent Solutions. You sort of
hope they have,
But yeah, so I went from quite an unusual, because I went from advisory, corporate, to starting my own thing, to actually going to run somebody else's thing. And I don't think I think normally once you start your own thing, you want to carry on doing that.
People who start their own businesses, often one of the motivations is not to have a boss, who want to have complete agency over what they do, whereas you've been in and out and up and down of the different perspectives as a founder and as a person working with entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I think especially based on the last conversation, it's a really interesting point, because being a founder is very different depending on the context. If you're a founder with investors, it doesn't feel a hell of a lot different some days to working for someone else. And I think, whether you start out with investment or whether you go through a sale process later, and again, I think some founders really struggle with that. Sometimes when you're selling your business, you're selling and exiting, and sometimes you're selling and staying, and then you go from being completely self-sufficient to essentially having a boss, and that can be a really hard journey as well for a lot of entrepreneurs. So again, another thing to think about when thinking about getting investment or selling.
And tell us about your role in scaling Opus, and you are the proud holder of that accolade of the youngest ever female leader of a £100 million sales business.
In the UK.
In the UK. Caveats ahoy, lots of little footnotes.
If you say enough caveats, anything's true, basically.
Absolutely. But come on, it's a substantial achievement. But both talk about the sense of personal achievement there, but really also about scaling that business.
I think The owner of that business, a guy called Darren Rymel, who is Bristolian, he'd got it to that stage from scratch, having taken no investment. And I think people are suited to different stages of the business, and he was very much a kind of founder, starter. And as soon as a business gets to the point where there's an interesting theory called Dunbar's theory, and a huge amount of what I've focused on as an entrepreneur is hiring, building teams. Obviously, I worked in recruitment for many years.
Could you just unpack for those who don't know what Dunbar's theory is? Yeah.
It's the idea that we were all originally tribes, and that a tribe couldn't get bigger than 150 without needing to segment into more than one tribe. And that's when you start getting the kind of infighting or the fighting between tribes. 150 is the maximum amount of people you can know and bond with. And there's a real feeling of that in businesses, especially for founders, I think, when you get above that kind of number, that you suddenly are walking in and you don't know everybody, and they don't know you, and often you're in more than one office at that point, or more than one time zone or location, and it becomes a very different job, and you need then all the fun things like structures and processes and comms and HR. I mean, obviously, you hopefully have it before 150, but it's until then it can be very much tribal feeling, tribe-led, personality-led, and I think it was the right time for him to step back. It was about 150 people at that stage, and it needed somebody almost that could take some of the emotion out of it. When you've started a business, I think one of the ways he put it himself was, you start out, you're playing five-a-side in the park, and then suddenly you're in the Premiership, and you need Premiership players, but it's very, very hard to replace the people that got you there. So you hire your Premiership players, but you're just playing with 22 people. And it's much sometimes what you need is someone to be able to come in with a fresh lens who doesn't have the history, and to be able to.
And when it came to team building, as you increased the business beyond that size, how did you approach that? You can't be all in it together in quite the same way. You can't be those five playing five-a-side, etc. As well as the formal structures and support mechanisms and all that you've talked about, particularly around HR. What else did you do consciously to help build teams and a sense of identity?
So you do need those structures. You need incentives to be right, EMI schemes and pay and bonuses, and to make sure that people are kind of incentivized to be proactive. But then the other thing is culture, and it's such an overused phrase, and I think it's been used in recent years in almost kind of a fluffy way, like culture is the fluffy thing, but it's not. And for me, culture isn't words that you put up on a page. It's not, a vision statement. It's action. And like, how do people act day to day in your company? Not what words do you say you want, but how do they show up? And in times of stress in particular, like, what are people's go-to culture actions? And
their authenticity and increasing sort of openness, I guess. Back in the day, management was much more hierarchical, command and control, whereas it just is not, and hasn't been for 20 years or so. It is much more about the authenticity of a leader. Yeah,
and it's also one of the hardest things to measure. It's actually it's because it's been so important in all of my career, and something Steven's passionate about as well. We've actually developed a tool to test culture, because you can go through tons of interview processes and you can test for all sorts of things, but testing culture is one of the hardest things.
Yeah, people often say fitability matters more, particularly at more junior levels. Fitability matters more than skill sets, and skill sets can be developed and trained.
Especially in today's world, skill sets move so fast.
As well. Yeah.
More than ever. I think skills become out of date in not years, months, weeks, days. And actually, I think we're moving to a world where a lot of companies will need less people. But then the pressure on those people being absolutely right is even more.
Months, weekdays, even hours when it comes to AI and the sort of democratization effect of marketing skills and information. Tell us about the, partly to Tim Edwards' experience at Network N, tell us about your role in the sale process of Opus and the juggling of running it as well at the same time. You're smiling. In retrospect, you're smiling perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, it's another full-time job, as if you didn't think your first full-time job was almost unachievable with the time that you had. And I had a baby during COVID, my first child, and it was an interesting one because it's a recruitment company, and of course the first thing that happened when lockdown hit was everyone stopped hiring.
Yeah.
And I, unfortunately or cleverly, went on maternity leave in February 2020.
Timing. It's amazing. It's, 3 speakers today know the exact month when something important happened. It's all in early 20. Yeah.
And then obviously we went into lockdown in March 2020. So my maternity leave was reasonably short, but it did actually give me the opportunity that I got to work from home for the first couple of years of my daughter's life. So. It's actually a silver lining.
Sounds like one for the lawyers. Can you be furloughed whilst on maternity? Yeah, those days, fortunately, have gone. We'll come on to Steven Bartlett, your experience there in a sec. But how far do you think your experiences with Opus informed how you have approached the role with Steven Bartlett?
It was very, very interesting because I went from obviously building something from scratch where you build the culture, you build the systems, you build everything, to taking on over somebody else's all of that. And I was running Opus for 5 or 6 years, and it took a long time for it to feel like mine. I changed the culture quite dramatically. Actually, not, and it's interesting when you say that, when I say that, because actually the fundamentals of the culture, like hard work and ambition and everything, were always there. But we needed to sort of, I guess, update it. And it was a really good exercise, I think, to actually parachute into the middle of something, and I think almost a harder job to unpick things and rebuild them than to start from scratch sometimes.
How much agency, freedom did you have?
Completely.
Really?
Completely. And that was one of the big reasons that I took the role, because I knew Darren by then, and I knew that he was really did want to step back.
And that reflects extremely well on him, of course, but obviously on you. Again, it's a trust point. One or another, trust looms large in business.
I think he said to me one day, I will never overrule you. The day that I'll give you my advice, I'll give you my opinion, I'll tell you when I disagree, but the day I overrule you on a decision will be the day I fire you.
Which never came.
Which was sort of a positive, kind of scary statement, but also was him saying, "There's no point in me hiring you." He said, "I can't hold you to account if I make you keep my people and run it my way, and I might as well do it myself."
That's a very profound point, and again, this point about entrepreneurs who've started a business who bring in skill sets they don't have. It's recognizing the need to give freedom to whomever they are in whatever that role is to deliver the value that which will be subsequently generated. So onto your significant new role for Steven Bartlett. Just talk it through, because in outline, you run his private offices and his businesses, which are 50 businesses. Is that? You're looking at me askance. All right, some number of businesses. It's not 50.
I think he's got about 40 investments. Yeah.
All right, we'll call it that. Call it 40. What is your actual role? What do you do? And again, how much sort of freedom do you have? And we'll then come on to your personal working relationship with Steven.
It was a very interesting turn of events. I'd sold Opus. I was on gardening leave / maternity leave with my second child. I couldn't work for a year, which was, for anyone in this room who's been working their entire lives, entrepreneurs, founders, being told you are not allowed to work is one of the kind of scariest and most liberating things.
Was that for competitive reasons? Yeah. But weren't you able to, if you wish to, work in something which is non-competitive? No. Gosh, that's a pretty restrictive covenants ahoy.
Well, it was notice period. I was.
Okay.
Being paid, and it
wasn't all bad, I'm sure.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was. best year ever. But yeah, so I got to spend some proper time with, my young children, wondering what to do next. And I'd always been passionate. Like I was like, I'm not done. And I want to use my investment experience and my business experience, but I want to do it in a sector that I've always been passionate about. And for me, that was kind of health, life, wellness, sport, lifestyle. Didn't know what to do. I was halfway through my gardening leave and opened up LinkedIn and had a message from Steven Bartlett saying,
As you do.
Well,
as you do.
Saying I've a couple of people have mentioned your name to me. Do you want to have a coffee? And of course I thought it was a bot or a, kind of ignored it for a bit. And then I knew who he was. And I'd listened to the podcast and things, but I did some digging into the kind of things he invests in and realised that it was all around health, wellness, healthier, happier humanity. And it just seemed a bit, like fate. I'd worked with dragons before. I knew what that entailed. I'd taken over, I'd done my own thing. I understood what it was to be a founder. And I'd also, gone into someone else's world and help them sort through it. And so we started conversations and it was all very open-ended about what the role could be. There wasn't he was just like, I have too much going on and I can't, the amount of opportunity that comes to him is obviously terrifying. And how do you pick through that? How do you decide what to do and what not to do? And then once you've done it, how do you make sure that those companies get the...
In some ways, this is back to your very earlier role as a consultant, as an analyst, essentially. So what I'm hearing from that, you're almost acting in part as a filter of the opportunities which come his way.
Yeah.
Is that part of it?
It's an exact combination of all the things I've done. And I think that's what, as you go through your career, anything you do, and I think even back to like the Saturday jobs you had, filing, like everything matters. Everything matters. Every opportunity matters. And yes, so I am advising and consulting and doing strategy. I'm also starting things. We found our own companies, and we're also supporting founders and making investment decisions. So all of my different things that I've done have come into play, and just a mega scale.
I could almost hear certain entrepreneurs' ears prick up when you said investment decisions. So if you wish to have a chat, and you're around for lunch in a moment, please do, or connect in whichever way. Talk to us about how the particular entrepreneurial skills of Steven Bartlett connect with yours. Do they overlap, complement, coincide? People, culture, investment approach. How does it actually work between you?
I think the foundations of a kind of belief, ambition, and culture again are really important. And we talked for months before, we kind of committed to the role. And actually, during those conversations, I found out I was pregnant again with my third child, and that was a real signal to me, because I said, look, these conversations have been great, but you need someone who can come in and help you, and I'm pregnant. And he was like, I don't care. Like, you do what you need to do. Take the time.
In a good way, don't care.
Don't care. Get in the office. Yeah, no, he's like, he still offered me the job, I think, about a week after I told him I was pregnant. So I started with him 6 months pregnant. And then went on maternity leave quite shortly afterwards. So yeah, I think things like that, like being fundamentally aligned on what you want to achieve, how you want to treat people, what your culture is, like what's important to you, what you're excited by, all those things. And then we just have, I guess, slightly different ways of approaching things. So his brain moves so fast, and he will want to do every opportunity. And I probably...
Are you sort of catching the balloon before it goes up?
Yeah.
In part.
Catching, assessing, and kind of executing, and
There's parallels here, by the way, with another EntreConf session that's in partnership with Ambitious, which is with Steve Hewitt, who came in as the chief exec of Gymshark, dealing with Ben Francis as a particularly strong entrepreneur, of how you meld the two different types of skill sets together. Audience questions, please. A couple of questions, and we will then break for lunch soon after. Yeah, here in the front row, please. If you get the mics, and then and there's another one. Two further, one behind you, Cara, if that's okay. Sorry, trying to get lots of voices. So one there with a hand up, if that's okay. Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca Morley from Third House. We work with very fast growth, scaling organisations to help those leaders to build leadership skills, probably the leadership skills they maybe didn't go in with, that they're learning along the way as that business grows and scales. You mentioned changing the culture quite dramatically as you went in, and that's a really easy thing to say, but a very difficult thing to do. So I was just wondering what leadership skills you felt you'd drawn on to be able to do that.
Good question. So we're talking about at Opus when I changed the...
I think you talked about when you went into Steven Bartlett's.
Probably more so at Opus from what you were saying about how a leader affects culture, essentially, is Rebecca's question.
I think it is making it, like anything else, measurable. So identifying what it means in practice and then measuring it. So I think I kind of touched on we were getting so... Across our portfolio companies, obviously, we don't get complete control over all the hiring, but that is... Any founder, they'll have top 3 problems, and one of them will always be hiring. And in this room, you all do different things. You probably don't consider yourselves competitors with everyone in this room day to day with what you're doing. But when it comes to hiring and finding the right people, all of you are competing, especially if you're based in the Southwest. And so you have to focus on culture and getting the wrong hire is the most expensive, time-consuming. A bad hire is so expensive in so many ways. And so we literally built something called Culture Test, culturetest.com, #ad, which we've built into a product because every single founder wanted to use it. We took our culture and we said, what is it in practice? And we built a test around it, and no one interviews at our business unless they've taken our culture test. And it's quite a dramatic statement, actually, because I think there's a lot of psychometric tests and things like that, and they kind of skirt around the edges of we'll give you a colour, or we'll give you nothing's good or bad, nothing's right or wrong.
Yeah, if you're an animal,
there is right and wrong for it. There's wrong for some businesses and there's right for some businesses. And getting it wrong can kill your business. Or most of it, when you get when you get above 100 people, people issues take up all of your time, I'm sure you. And so our founders use it, but you can build your own, because everyone's culture is different. But we do not hire anyone unless they, and it's been completely transformative. It's a complete correlation to who does well in your business.
And that's a service which you're selling. That's a marketable. So culturetest.com, check it out. Anyone hiring, which is pretty much
giving away
here.
at the moment, I think.
Giving away? Yeah. Giving away for how long?
Well, it's you can sign up for the wait list. We're launching it soon to test, so it'll be free for... Well.
Go on now on your phones. Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, question over here, and we'll then finish. So I'm sorry we can only take 2 questions.
Hi, Amy. Anna Eden from the C-Suite. So I run a private collective for high growth founders and CEOs, and I'm sure that you get to go to a lot of invitation-only suppers and networking events. So
I don't really go out for dinner. I've got a 7-month-old. But
I wish. I know the story.
We've invited you tonight, but unfortunately you can't make it. For the EntreConf dinner. So another time.
So I did actually reach out to you a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn, and I'm quite pushy, but I wanted to ask you a question. So when it comes to founder networks or leadership experiences, what tends to really stand out for you?
What stands out to me? I think that there's so many of them, and I've been involved in a lot in my time. I think I used to go to them a lot. I read enough and find them valuable. But I think as life gets very busy, I think lockdown plus 3 kids, your time is so scarce and so precious that I guess committing to something where you have no idea on the outcome is difficult.
Which is one of the reasons why we very much appreciate you coming here, because you don't know what the outcome of this is at all. But time being precious. And Anna, thank you for that question.
And I think knowing who and why is. Yeah, I used to go to anything I was invited to when I was 28. Free meal.
Bit sour. But yeah, I mean, at different stage, different careers, you do different things to build networks, contacts, relationships, and so on. Last question for you is this. You've worked at the highest level in an entrepreneurial business. You founded your own. You had a consultancy. You're now working with one of the highest profile entrepreneurs in the country. Is there, at some stage, a chance that you will found your own business once more?
Yeah, I hope so. I would like to do that very much. Don't know what, don't know when.
But you'll tell us at a subsequent EntreConf, I'm sure. Amy, thank you so much. You've covered a lot of ground here, a lot of prompts to thinking about culture, about how you can reinterpret your experiences at different stages of your career and use those skills subsequently. Being in and around remarkable entrepreneurs, but being a remarkable entrepreneur yourself is such a rare skill set, rare level of experiences. We've found it absolutely superb, and thank you so much for joining us here. Amy Golding, thank you so much. Thank you.